It's been said that better questions lead us naturally to better answers, and that it's in not knowing that we open the doorway to knowing. I'm Scott Lennox, and you're listening to The Beautiful Question, a consideration of things that truly matter in a complex world. So what does it mean to really listen? And for that matter, what does it mean to truly hear? And what's the difference between the two? Join me this week as we tune into the world around us and to ourselves. We'll start by taking a walk through the streets of Manhattan. Come with me. This week, we'll consider some of the differences between listening and hearing. As it turns out, they're related, but not exactly the same. On one of my first trips to Manhattan, I caught a glimpse of the difference I'm pointing to. So struck was I by the vibrant intertwining of symphony and cacophony of the sounds of the city that I went out and bought a small cassette deck and walked around with it, recording like an amateur sound engineer. Here and there, I stopped to pick up particularly interesting sounds that were happening around me. About a block from my hotel, two young violinists stood in a doorway as they played pieces by Mozart, their music softly rising above the backdrop of the incessant horn honking and jackhammering and other construction sounds, not to mention the general noise of the people moving along the sidewalks. Half a block down from the musicians, a religious zealot stood on a park bench waving a book in the air as he shouted verses and admonished the passers-by, boldly promising both heaven and hell. Around the corner, a saxophone player had tucked himself into one end of an alley and was mournfully playing the blues as people occasionally paused and dropped coins into the tin can at his feet. As he played, an ambulance wailed its way through the congested traffic, echoing from the walls as it approached and then slowly went past. As the wailing of the siren faded, the slow and deep tolling of a distant church bell seemed to be in soulful response to the poignancy of the ambulance and the person inside it. And from somewhere farther away, somewhere in Central Park, the piercing voice of an operatic singer cut through everything else. I had never experienced such a rich, sonic tapestry. That evening, when I got back to my hotel and listened to the tape, I was surprised by all the other sounds I had recorded, things I hadn't noticed when I was out on the street. There were the clear conversations of people as they passed by me. An older couple argued vehemently about where they were going to have dinner. He was tired of Italian food, and she was tired of his negative attitude. A young couple professed their undying love for one another. A baby cried as a soft-voiced woman did her best to console it. A group of girls were laughing hysterically as they commented about someone they were watching. Two dogs barked in a way that it was impossible for me to tell if they were playing or fighting. A man with a high voice cried out frantically as he urgently hailed a cab. And very softly, the steady ringing of a small bell, like that of an ice cream vendor. As I listened, I shook my head in wonder, realizing that I had missed so much as I focused on other things. They might seem like little things, but as I heard them on the tape, I wondered how it was that I didn't notice them when they were right around me or right in front of me. It would be several more years before I understood that listening and hearing are two related but uniquely different activities, rather like the difference between searching and finding. To listen is to actively and intentionally reach for and focus on what may be heard, fine-tuning our attention and our awareness as we direct ourselves toward it. To hear, on the other hand, is to take in the voice or the sound or the idea that we're perceiving, and to be conscious about receiving it. When I realized that the words listen and silent are made from the same letters, it helped the squirrels on speed in my brain to slow down a little bit, allowing me to focus on what I was perceptually reaching for. Then, when true hearing came, it brought with it such relief that I finally found it possible to be fully present with myself. What a gift that was. Now, in my work as one who encourages transformational change, I know that if I'm to be effective, I must necessarily begin by making room for the other person, listening much more than I'm speaking. Often, it's in those moments when I'm listening the most deeply that the opportunity opens for the other person to actually hear themselves. Here's a case that I think is a great example of that. A man I've been working with for some time has reported some extremely dramatic arguments with his partner, screaming at her that she's not listening to him and that he feels invisible and unheard. When I asked him how much time he spends listening to himself, he came to a complete standstill. He had the realization that he was so busy insisting that she hear him that he couldn't hear himself at all, and he certainly couldn't hear her. After we talked about it, he began practicing short periods of daily stillness. 3 times a day, gently listening to himself, he spent time consciously attending to what was arising in his awareness from that deep inner quiet. He also listened to what was going on around him in a brand new way. As he continued to listen to himself with an attitude of gentleness, he began to really hear himself for what he reported to be the first time in his life. As that happened, his demands that his partner and other people listen to him began to fall away, and he found himself increasingly present, and his relationship with his partner began to heal dramatically. All that from merely stepping into silence, stepping into stillness, and listening, and then actually hearing himself. This week's 3 beautiful questions have within them the possibility to create real and substantive change. 1. Are you willing to listen to yourself today with the same presence, sensitivity, and kindness you would show a child or someone you deeply love? 2. What shifts are necessary for you to engage in that kind of listening? And 3. Would it help if, like the man I told you about, you set aside regular listening times? As you create this marvelous change for yourself, write and tell me about it. I'd like to know. As I say each week, my light with your light. Thank you again for listening and being with me. I continue to be inspired by our collaboration as we work and play together, building better lives and better possibilities for ourselves, for one another, for the world, and for our beautiful planet home. I always look forward to your comments and your feedback. You can be further inspired by visiting my good friends at Cosmos Journal, including their online newsletter. That's KOSMOS Journal. Their mission is to inform, inspire, and engage global transformation in harmony with all life. You can easily find them online at cosmosjournal.org. And as always, you can find my free podcasts and guided relaxation audios by searching for The Beautiful Question in Apple Podcasts or in SoundCloud or CastBox, or by visiting the podcast page of my website at scottlennox.com. If you find them useful or encouraging, don't hesitate to share them. I'm Scott Lennox, and this has been The Beautiful Question. The Beautiful Question is a One Light production, written, recorded, and produced by Scott Lennox at Heart Rock Studios in Fort Worth, Texas, as a way of paying forward to life, being fully present, and becoming better engaged with things that truly matter in a complex world.